Hey everyone, welcome to Queerly Recommended, the podcast where we recommend queer TV shows, books, films, and more. I am Tara Scott, and I review queer women's fiction at the Lesbian Review and Smart Bitches Trashy Books. And today I am recommending a reality competition show, and no, it is not RuPaul's Drag Race, although you will get the usual update.
And I'm Kris Bryant, a contemporary romance writer for Bold Strokes Books. And today I will be recommending a mainstream movie.
If you would like to support our show, there's a link in the show notes, or you can contribute to our coffee at ko-fi.com/queerly recommended. Kris, hooray!
Yes!
You are back!
It's good to be back. Thank you. I have missed the show.
And I think even slightly more exciting, perhaps, for some people, depending on whether they're readers or not, you have a new book coming out.
I know. I'm so excited. I just finished page proofs and turned it in. It's at the printer right now. It is called Catch. And it has the sexiest.
What's it about? Were you about to talk about it having the sexiest cover? Because it does have that.
What? It has the sexiest cover. And here's the funny thing. When I was coming up with the cover ideas, Deb actually came up with a few, and I'm like, these are all boring. Like, these are boring. This one looks too slutty, and like, it was just like there was a lot going on that I didn't want my book to represent. So the original photo, it's just a sexy woman holding a football, and she's kind of a little dirty, and it's like from the chin down. But the original photo she has really bright red lips, and it just didn't go. And so once I took the lips out of it, it's a great photo, and it fits the story perfectly. So it's kind of like a second chance romance. It's about high school sweethearts that meet up again in their 30s. And there's kind of like, I'm not going to call it a love triangle because it's really not, but I can't give anything else away because there's like a huge twist in this book. So it goes past, present, and it's a different structure. It's like completely different than anything I've done before. And I am so fucking excited about this book, and it's about American football, but not really. It's about relationships, and it's cool. I'm having a good time. I had a good time writing it, and an even better time, getting it back to the typesetter and to go to print because now I know it's done. And the next step is it's coming out, and reviews will come out.
So exciting. All right. When is it out?
Okay. It's Catch, by the way. I don't know if I said the title. It's called Catch. And it officially comes out January 1st, but I believe it's available for reviews at the end of November, or at the beginning of December. Usually
so it'll be on NetGalley at that point. And then January 1st, is that on the BSB site or is that everywhere?
It is on the BSB site January 1st, and then I think January 11th, it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere else.
Go pre-order it. Go get it. Pre-order it.
And here, I'm doing this like really cool contest. Okay, so what I'm going to do is it's about a new quote unquote expansion team for the NFL. Like if you know anything about football, you're going to want to read this book. Seriously. And so there's this new team called the Connecticut Cheetahs. And so I have a logo designed for the new Cheetahs, for the new NFL team. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this contest. Like you get this brand new t-shirt with the logo printed on, and I'll have to figure out a way, like what kind of contest I'm going to have, like, show pre-order receipts or something like that. And I'll pick from however many people, because I ordered a bunch. So I'm really excited about this. So
fun.
So you have to help me come up with a good contest, but that's kind of what I'm angling for.
Okay. We're going to do that, but not.
Okay. Good. Not right now.
Can you imagine a podcast that's just the two of us figuring out the logistics of a contest? Okay. You see, it's like
right.
Oh
yes.
My goodness.
So that's what's been going on with me. What about you? What has been going on with you?
I am so excited because I am on vacation for a week doing my absolute favorite style of vacation, which, okay, many people love traveling. I also love traveling, but even better than traveling is staying at home while my kids go to school.
That is a double vacation.
Right? Oh my goodness. It is the best because Neil is a stay-at-home dad. And so like, we're just going to hang out and not have our kids here. in this house.
That's awesome.
We're going to go to our favorite diner. I'm going to get new glasses, which I'm also ridiculously excited about because, okay, people are obviously listening to this so they can't see, but I have these clear frames. I mean, Kris can see because we're on video together. And when I got these, nobody had these frames. I was the only one. And I was like, oh, this is
every fucking person has those frames
Every person has them. They have the same shape even. There was at one point, I was on a meeting at work and there were 4 people, 4 other people with these frames in that meeting. And I was just like, and my eyes are getting worse because I am getting old.
Getting older. Well, here's the deal. So like this is a true story. I started watching Love is Blind season 3 because you know how I am.
Okay.
But anyway, one of the characters has your glasses
frames?
and I've been thinking about you ever since I started watching it.
Of course. Yeah. So I just figure if my eyes are getting worse anyway, I think that's a sign that it's time for new frames.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see what I come back with. So it's pretty chill. So, I mean, the next thing is to ask what you've been reading or watching. Let's talk about Love is Blind briefly. How is Love is Blind season 3? Because I loved season 1. I loved the antics, but I don't know if it was because of the novelty or what. Season 2, I think I ended up bailing about halfway through and then just reading all the spoiler articles about who stayed together. Major spoiler, nobody.
Okay, so here's the deal. So I think it was a learning curve for Netflix as well. Mm-hmm. So season 1, they spent a lot of time in the pods and you really saw them develop a relationship, you know? And so then I think they got more traction after they were out of the pods and into like whether they went to the special place where they all go,
Mexico
and so
or whatever.
That got a lot of attention because it's, you know, there's drama and there's, I think if you could have the choice of peace or like confrontation or whatever, that's how reality shows are so, you know, they're so popular right now is because people want to see the confrontations. They want to see like, I don't know what that is, but it pisses me off. Anyway, so they like that more. So the second season, they showed more of that as opposed to the pod interactions. So I think it was like a half-half. Like half the season was pods, and then the second half was let's go to these apartments and live together and see what turns out. Yeah. So now it's like I'm on, I think, episode 6, and the pods are like long gone. Like the very first 2 episodes was pods only. And so now, it's all the drama that follows. Like they have the couples that actually get engaged. They get together and there's like, you know, you can see like, oh shit, they aren't going to go together. They aren't going to last. They aren't going to last because people like that. People want to see that. You know, there are people who want to see them succeed like me. Like there's this one couple that I hope make it. And then there's people who want to see them fail. Like, going in like, oh, that's never going to last. Yeah. So, but they want to see that side of it. They want to see them fight or like hook up with somebody else. And so that's where I think that they failed this series. I think that they should have left it sweet and the concept was absolutely great. And somebody said on the show, they said it was great to get to know somebody without the everyday distractions, like your cell phone, like a computer, like, you know, family members, just, you know, you and that other person just sitting and talking for hours. I mean, they nailed it. I mean, true.
Yeah, I think I liked all the time with the pods in season 1 because there was a part of me that was like, okay, A, why would people do this? And B, okay, but could you actually find love with somebody doing this? And I felt like, yeah, you're right. The difference between season 1 and season 2, I didn't understand in season 2 why certain people were choosing each other, especially with the way it was edited together, where you're like Shane and Natalie were just like, what a mess. There was a 0% chance that was ever going to work out. But then you even look at like the couples that did end up getting married on season 2. And again, it was like, I don't think these people are gonna last. And again, like, haha, guess what? It like, not haha, that's terrible. But like, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. Right. Like Danielle and Nick and the way they were fighting and the vicious things he's saying. And she's talking about doing weird shit to his toothpaste. And I'm like, what are you, 12? Both of you?
Right.
How is this going to, or what was it? Ayana and Jarrett?
I can't even remember their names. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I think Ayana and Jarrett are the other one where like he was clearly disappointed that he didn't get his first choice, but he's going to marry this other woman anyway. I was,
Well, there's this there's this one woman who didn't get first choice, did second choice, and then got third choice, and then it's like, oh, I love him so much. And I'm just like,
yeah.
Why do I watch this? Why do I watch?
Yeah.
I'm just a sucker for this. I want romance and I want love and I want it all to be happy and show that it can be done, on reality TV. I mean, that's why I wrote Forever, because I love the concept of it. Because I think like watching or having apps on your phone and trying to meet people that way is really, really hard. Like in person or, in something so unique like a pod. I love that. I love the idea of it. Just because I think, the internet and apps and all the different dating sites have taken over our world. So
I think what I need now is I am fine to continue with the format of Love is Blind, but make it gay. Just give me a gay season of Love is Blind. Give the queers what we want. Oh my God. Yes. How many people would love that? So many people would. Okay. So what else?
Do it, Netflix.
Right? Stop being cowards. Just do it already. Maybe they'll make decisions on that based on the outcome of the midterms and see how that goes.
Yeah.
That's a whole other, let's leave those alone. Let's leave them. We'll just, except to say, please go vote. And if you can,
please,
vote in advance. Vote as far in advance as you possibly can. What else have you been reading or watching lately?
So I actually read a book.
Yay! What was it? And how did you feel about it?
I read Southbound and Down by KB Draper. And if you love humor, like, this book is top notch. I laughed so hard. And I know KB. Her descriptions of the antics in this book, it's kind of it's like hijinks, and it has a suspenseful storyline. So it's not just all fun and games. It's like an actual, this marshal protects this DA until this massive trial, hits the courthouse. It's kind of a fun story, a fun read. So I read that, and then I finished The House of Dragon, the prequel to Game of Thrones. And let me tell you something. So like this whole time I'm like, I don't know if I'm invested in this or not, because they were jumping around. Like all of a sudden it's 10 years later, and all of a sudden it's 5 years later, and then all of a sudden it's like 4 years later, and like the kids are like, they go from babies to adults, and like the adults look the same, and it was really confusing. And they had the same, like everybody had the same sounding name. And so I was just like, I have to do this. It's kind of like, The Walking Dead and all the offshoots from that. I have to watch it because I'm loyal to the main, The Walking Dead, but I'm loyal to Game of Thrones. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch House of the Dragon. And God damn it, let me tell you something. The final episode, the finale, got me hooked.
Really?
Yes. I was like, son of a bitch. Now I like it. Now I have to wait another year and a half or whatever until the next season comes out. Because something major happened.
A thing that happened.
There's a thing that happens, but there's always a thing that happened. A cliffhanger. It's always there.
I haven't seen any of it, but I did see Twitter explode when Cosmo posted, I think it was Cosmo, put an article that was like, House of Dragons means we can finally admit it. Incest stuff can be hot sometimes. And I think there's just this collective all across Twitter with people saying, absolutely the fuck not. Can you stop? Why is this happening? Go away.
Right. But see, I don't like it for that reason. But so let's talk about this. So in Game of Thrones, there was incest. There was sister, brother incest, a bunch of kids. They had some kids, and everybody's like, ugh. It was like Cersei and Jaime. Yeah. They had a bunch of kids together. And so everybody was just like, same reaction. Oh my God. But then here's the deal. So everybody fell in love with Daenerys, the blonde-haired Emilia Clarke character. Just because like she had really, really rough, and she like came up out of, she just came to rule, and then she got a little in her head. But Jon Snow, like there was an attraction there, and everybody wanted them to hook up. They were like, oh, this is great. Everybody loves Jon. He's sweet. They love her. She's really sweet. Together, they make a great couple, blah, blah, blah. They hook up, blah, blah, blah. Turns out, like, she's his aunt.
Ew.
And so, but everybody was already in love with him by that time. And they're like, everybody's like, well, maybe it's not so bad.
She wasn't like raised in the family with him.
They didn't, right,
Perhaps
exactly.
Yeah.
It was one of those where they didn't know. and they were in love, and they wanted to get together, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, guess what? We can't because we're like aunt and nephew. And so that shit happened on House of Dragons. So yeah, I'm not in it for that. I mean, I'm all about the dragons and like how that all came about, like the whole fight for the Iron Throne. That's what I'm in it for, the fantasy aspect. Not that kind of fantasy, but just like the sci-fi fantasy.
Well, apparently the author of this particular article was there for it. And I was just like, that is an interesting take. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's not like, there are some people where like that's part of their kink, and that's like, I'm going to leave all that to the side. I'm going to make no comment either way. But to like put your name in print in this article and the internet is forever.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
Right. And maybe it was, I mean, I didn't read it or see it. I kind of haven't really been online for the last 6 weeks, but was it tongue in cheek, or was it like legit? Like, hey, I guess we're okay with this, and this is the way it is now. Was it like that? Or?
Pretty sure it was legit. Oh, here we go. I haven't. Oh, wait. Did Cosmo take it down?
They did. Look at
Cosmo took down the tweet. Okay, hang on. I'm wondering if they took the whole article down. This is interesting.
Wow.
Okay. I think they took the article down. Wow. Well, okay then.
Just Google that. Let's Google.
Oh, it's on the, like, for sure, unless for sure somebody would have submitted it to the Wayback Machine to make sure that it was. I'm not going to Google that right now, but I will try to find it for you later, because you are my friend, and I feel like if I have to know about this, you have to as well.
I think that's fair.
That's how you know we're actually friends.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Okay, what else have you been watching?
So Survivor 9812 started. So of course I had to really watch it. Had to start it. I don't know why I watched it. Actually, I think it's like season 43. I think it's what it is. So I'm watching that. But like the thing that I needed most came to me at the moment that I needed most. So they started a new season of the Great British Baking Show. Here's the deal. I want to go there, and I want to live in the tent with these people because they all seem like they're awesome. Yes. And the contestants all love each other, and there's like a group hug once one of them goes. And then like later after the season ended, they do a recap, and like these freaking people are friends, and they get together and go on vacations together and stuff. I mean, that is some good bonding. Yeah, I love that. And so that's where I want to go. I want to be in the tent and live there.
Okay, so as you have mentioned, you haven't really been on Twitter very much recently. And so I would like to catch you up on a little bit of the Great British Bake Off drama so that I can ask you about the two big controversies. First of all, how did you respond when you watched Mexican Week?
I laughed at they couldn't pronounce taco. First of all, tacos. It just made me laugh because like that's not part of their part of their cuisine.
They also could not pronounce guacamole.
Right. And so what they made, like, here's the deal. Like, I don't know anything about baking or cooking or what would taste good. I don't know. I just know I'm like, oh, they mix things that I really wouldn't mix. I watch it because I think it's interesting just that people do come up with the concepts. And I love the interactions between the judges and the contestants. I think it's really like low key. It doesn't make you feel like shit if you like make something that falls apart.
Yeah.
Plus I like to see what people can do in like the course of 4 hours. That can make this cake that's really made of gelatin and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I just kind of chalked it up to like that's not like, I don't know shit about fish. I don't eat fish. Yeah. And that's all they eat. I say that's all they eat. That's a big presumption. It's an island and there's a lot of fish. And so I don't know anything about fish. So I'm not the one to say, oh, blah, blah, blah. So as far as Mexican Week, I just laughed because they couldn't announce anything and they made weird stuff. But, They just don't eat the food, and I get it. So what was the controversy? What were they saying? Like the fact that they can't say taco?
That it was the absolute most cringe-worthy, how they couldn't pronounce anything. The Matt Lucas showing up with his maracas and like the super cringe-worthy jokes. And basically the big opinion was they should have just passed on by and done something that was not Mexican Week. And the other one, much more recently, was, how did you feel about the s'mores?
The s'mores was weird. Just because, first of all, they had a hard time even pronouncing s'mores. And that nobody knows what s'mores are. Like, nobody knew what they were.
Yeah.
No. There's some things I'm like, what are they making? What is it? A gâteau? Gâteau? What's a gâteau? I don't know what a gâteau is.
Yeah.
And you can't Google anything. You can't pick it up and like, I don't know what that is. And so, but I'm not a baker either, so.
Gâteau is I think it's just a kind of cake. I mean, gâteau is French for cake.
Is it? Is that what that is? But it has to do with custard too. Like it had to have custard, or they made it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
it might be.
It has to have layers of sponge cake and then some custard and stuff. And so I mean, it wasn't a s'more that I would eat. It was a s'more connoisseur.
That seems to be the consensus from all the Americans and the Canadians that I follow on Twitter that were like, what is this?
What did they make? Yeah,
that
they did not make a s'more.
Not a s'more. Why was there dark chocolate? What is with this meringue? What is going on?
And they made, but the one thing I think that sounded pretty good is they made their biscuit. I love a cookie biscuit, whatever. They made this biscuit that actually looked better than a graham cracker.
Graham crackers are kind of gross.
They really are. You know what they should do? They should take the biscotti cookie and make that as part of the s'more. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So like that kind of that's what they should make. And I think that's kind of what some of the people did when they made their biscuits.
You want to get me to follow you anywhere in the world for any reason? Start doing s'mores with shortbread.
Yes, I agree.
Shortbread.
I 100% agree. Shortbread.
Oh my god. Little bit of, I know this is going to be sacrilegious to some people, but a little bit of salted chocolate. Not just chocolate, but like, put a little bit of salted toffee in that chocolate.
Do you know?
Or pretzel bits.
My friend Anna used a Reese's peanut butter cup. So did Kathy. Everybody uses a Reese's peanut butter cup with them to make a s'mores.
Shut up.
Yeah. There you go. You're welcome. Let's go start a fire.
Well, I think the snow in our backyard has finally melted enough that we could do a fire. Oh my god, Kris, okay. I know we're like breaking our own format all over the place. Aside, I think some people will want to know about this. Would you like to hear about Puppy's first snowfall?
Oh my god, yes, please.
So, Little Miss Ember Gertrude Scott had her first ever snowfall because last weekend we got, I don't know, it was probably close to a foot of snow.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And we were like, what's she gonna do? Because, some dogs love it, some are not a fan. She was so cute. It was ridiculous because she would pounce on the snow, and when she would pounce on the snow, a bunch of the snow would fly up, and then she would see the snow that flew up, and then she would pounce on that snow, which would then make more snow fly up, and then she was the best. She was like digging in it, like sticking her nose in it, and she just wanted to be outside the whole time because it stayed.
I bet.
It wasn't. It stayed like kind of around freezing or like slightly colder than that, but it didn't get really cold. She was out there for hours. I have never seen that dog sleep as hard as that day because actually we had to make her come in after about an hour because she had her puppy school graduation day that day, and we needed to make sure that she had energy for puppy school. And so she graduated. We got a photo of her with her little cap. She hated it. And we let her go play outside for more in the snow, and she has never crashed harder than that evening. Awesome. When like a bomb could have exploded around her, and I believe she still would have been asleep because she's a big fan of the snow.
I would like to say that, oh my god, snow. Like, before I went into hibernation, it was still summer.
I know.
And you're talking about snow. Like,
I mean,
I'm
also,
so sad.
It's
like
Calgary. It does that in Calgary. Snow in October is super common. I mean, the thing that's nice is that I I still work from home all the time. I only go to the office about once a month. So I don't care about snow anymore because I don't have to deal with the commuters. And that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so what have you been reading and watching?
Okay. So there is only one Drag Race happening right now, as far as I know. It is Drag Race UK, and I think season 4 might be one of the strongest seasons of Drag Race of all the drag races, including the US and the All-Stars and all that.
Wow.
They brought in such an incredible cast that, except for the person who was voted out first, because I was like, know about this one if they're that strong, and then they got kicked off first, and I was like, this feels correct.
Yeah.
Well, they're that person, like, nothing against that particular individual, but they're a Jerry Halliwell impersonator, and that's like the whole shtick, which, like, Drag Race is about versatility. It's not just about this is the only thing I can do. And everyone else, though, was so strong that every week I'm like, I don't know, like, who's even going to go home? Who's even, like, I don't know. Who's the top 4? Who's the top 4 this going to be? It could be literally anyone because they're so good. So I have been loving it. The most recent episode was the Snatch Game, which is kind of that, like, super iconic where they're all doing celebrity impersonations and doing a match game style. It's an improv challenge. But the thing that I especially loved is the Queen, Cheddar Gorgeous, did a look for the runway, because the whole thing was, I forget what the theme was called, but it was all about pink. And Cheddar Gorgeous dressed in all black, but there were hot pink triangles. And it said things like it was either silence equals death or silence equals violence. And it was just paying homage to all the people who died of AIDS and putting the message forward that, you know, now that we have PrEP, you know, HIV doesn't have to be a death sentence anymore. We actually can eradicate AIDS and HIV via these medications if we can get them to everyone. And it was just it was a really powerful moment. And there was a really powerful conversation about it. So I think, you know, if anyone was inclined to watch or try to find that, I would definitely suggest it, because it was so good. And pointing out that, you know, one of the drag queens, I think she's like 28 or 29, and she was talking about how one time she was asking her friend who's in his 50s, like, why do you hang out with only young people? And he said, it's because all of my friends died. Because there are, you know, there are a lot of men of a certain generation, like especially men, who did lose all of their friends. And there, you know, there's a generation of people that were, I mean, it was kind of like, it was a genocide in a way, by refusing to do anything about it, by saying, well, this is only affecting gay people and that's good and we don't give a shit. So yes, I highly, highly recommend that episode. And I commend Drag Race for including it. Like, they do include personal stories quite often. They do include political things.
It's good.
But I think, especially right now, with the way, you know, it's really interesting to see there's certain parts in the world where gay marriage is being legalized. And then you see what's happening in North America and the UK, and how there's this very big anti-trans movement. If you think it doesn't impact you, what's happening to trans people right now, have I got news for you, because that's just the wedge that the religious right is using to crack open the door to take away rights for everybody, to recriminalize us. And I am glad that Drag Race is calling attention to it. I also watched a documentary. I believe it's an HBO documentary, but I am in Canada, so I watched it on Crave. It is there if you are inclined. It is called Wig, and it is it's very Drag Race adjacent. And it's about Wigstock, it was an annual drag festival that was in New York City for almost 20 years, started in 1984. And it was started by Lady Bunny, was kind of one of many people. And then I think just ended up organizing it for the rest of the years. Lady Bunny is a really good friend of RuPaul's. They kind of came up in the scene together, and it started as this like impromptu drag show in Tompkins Square Park in the bandstand. And it was just like a couple hundred people that first year, and just like people literally wandering by. But it turned into like thousands and thousands of people would show up. And it lasted until 2001. And that was really during, when Giuliani was mayor of New York, and he decided he was going to clean up the nightlife. And Lady Bunny brought it back in 2018, just basically saying we all just need a laugh. And so it talks about the history of the festival, what was the context of what was happening at the time. And kind of interestingly, it was really interesting seeing this episode of Drag Race last night, actually, and having just watched Wig a week ago, because it also talks about how, a lot of their contemporaries in the drag world, whether it was drag queens and kings, or, whether it was drag queens or like just like gay people on the scene who were coming to see them at the clubs, were dying. And so you would see this archival footage, especially like in the 80s and 90s, of paying tribute to a queen who had been on stage the year prior, but who they had lost since then. And so it's this really, it's a really kind of great memoir in a way of a particular part of the queer scene in New York City, say from like 1984 until kind of the 2000s. And then there's a lot of familiar like Drag Race people that showed up for the 2018 version. Yeah, it was super fun. And then I don't know about you, but I have felt like the world has been particularly scary and hard lately.
Yes.
To just be a human in everything, like everywhere you look, it's pretty rough. And so I decided to just go back to an old favorite. I've talked about it quite a lot on the show before, but I did a full reread of Truth and Measure, and then the second part, Above All Things, by Rosalind Sinclair. It took me about a week because I didn't just power through it. I was responsible and I kept my sleep schedule where it should be, but like it just felt like a little warm blanket saying
we need that sometimes, for sure.
Yes, it was so good, so comforting, and it's really fun now that I've read it, because I'd read it all the way through kind of for the first time this spring when it came out, and knowing the trajectory of the story and being able to go back and see those first moments. It's like, okay, when did things sort of start? What are the beginning seeds? And the thing that I think was most fun for me was realizing, it starts on the first page, actually. There's just this line on the first page that seems almost like a throwaway, but it's actually extremely significant. And yes, I still love it. It was so good.
I love that.
It was the best choice. Yay. So Kris, what is your official recommendation this week?
My official recommendation is the movie Bros.
Yay! I haven't seen it yet, and I'm very excited to see it. And I'm so glad you're talking about it, because I am sure that when it was announced, a bunch of listeners were like, all right,
somebody's going to watch it.
It's got to come up on QR.
It does. Okay. So this movie stars Luke McFarlane and Billy Eichner. And okay, so here's what I thought was interesting. So they said it's regarded as the first mainstream Hollywood studio-backed rom-com to feature gay men as leads. And I think that's wrong. I feel like we have talked about a lot of quote unquote mainstream movies, but I guess, I think we did it. I think I did a Hallmark gay one.
I felt like it was interesting that comment came out when Fire Island just happened.
Right. Exactly. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we just saw in the last 6 months, we've watched at least 3 movies that were like that. So I jotted that down because I wanted to go ahead and point that out, and I think they're wrong, but whatever. Okay, back to the story. So Eichner plays Bobby Lieber, a born and bred New Yorker who hosts a queer history podcast called The 11th Brick. And so I'm like, oh, cool, he's a podcaster. That's great. And he's like, I'd like to welcome our 1 millionth subscriber or whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're not there.
Not yet.
That is where,
As an aside, tell your friends. Do you like the show? Tell your friends.
I know. We need more than hundreds. We need millions. So he's also the director of the first national LGBTQ history museum that's finally getting ready to open. It's like right on the brink. And they lost some money. So they're trying to figure out how to get back the $5 million they lost, because they've already pushed the opening back twice. And so the board is just a bunch of queer people. And there's so much like deliciousness on the board, and you wish that they had more of a presence throughout the movie. Because it's funny, there's this one guy, he's always talking about, nobody talks about the B in LGBTQ, bye. And so he brings up all these people, Bobby is trying to say that like Abraham Lincoln is gay. And the guy on the board's like, oh, he's bi because he was married and he had 4 kids. And so it's just, they have like every representation, every letter is there, but they just didn't flesh it out more. And I wish they would have. So anyway, Bobby is a 40-year-old, never been in a relationship kind of guy. He doesn't believe the gays are capable of having a relationship. So he just kind of has like, one night stands and he's okay with that. So he leaves this dinner party with his friends and he goes to a club, and it's exactly like what I picture and what I've experienced, the techno thumping music and everybody has their shirts off and muscly, sexy men with no body hair and silver shorts are shimmering around. I mean, that's exactly what I've seen. And a side note, so I don't know how long ago it was, but I went to New York City for, I think, a weekend. And Cindy Rizzo, I met her for drinks. She's like, hey, you're not too far from me. Let's have drinks. So I did some drinks, and there was a bar next door to the hotel. I don't know where it was, but there was this bar, and sure enough, they had the guys shaved, the smooth, with the silver shorts on the bar dancing. But so we got drunk off of like $20 because the drinks were like $3 a piece, and that's unheard of in New York. Just an FYI, that was a side note.
Very good.
So, so he meets Aaron, and Aaron is exactly like what everybody's staring at. The smooth, sexy boy in the shorts and no shirt. Yeah. And he's just sexy, and they sit there and they make fun of gays. They're just like, okay, we're horrible. Look at us. We're just in it for sex. We're in it for, we're not in it for the relationship, blah, blah, blah. But Bobby doesn't know how to pull back. And so he's very, very snarky. And so Aaron ghosts him. It's like he's in the middle of talking and he doesn't realize that Aaron has left because Bobby likes to hear himself talk. Like, that's his thing. He's just that person turns around and like Aaron's gone. Yeah. And so later he's like, why'd you ghost me? He's like, yeah, I don't need to hear that all the time. Yeah. So they end up becoming friends. And Bobby really, even though he says he doesn't want a relationship, he really does. And Aaron, he's like a lawyer. He's super smart. And he has like his job is to like create wills for people. Like, what do you do with your money, after you're deceased? So he hates his job. He really wants to be a chocolatier. And I love that because I wrote a book about a chocolatier. Yes. Anyway, so there's a lot of similarities. I was loving this movie. Yeah. It had great, I mean, I literally laughed out loud several times. The dialogue is hilarious. The bad thing, like some of the movies I watched, the LGBTQ movies, the dialogue is horrible. It's not, it's just bad dialogue. And they make fun of like things like Tinder and Grindr, and like where you see somebody you're attracted to and you're like, hey, and then you want to come meet? Sure. And then you see the scene where they go to the guy's house and like, hey, what's up? And like, it's just like simple. It's just it's what you think it is. And it's exactly what it is. So, I mean, just the whole thing was great. And also Bowen Yang is in it for like 5 minutes. And that is the most hilarious scene with him in it. I absolutely loved it. And it's in P-Town. There's like a section of time like where they actually meet with Bowen Yang. Like, it's in P-Town. So it was kind of cool because like the whole time I'm like, oh, I've been there. Oh, I know where that is. I know where that is. So it was a good movie. It definitely had the cinematography of mainstream. You could tell it was made with money. And it was really good. It was a nice romance, and it kind of gave you a different, lesbians, we love the, the whole lovey-dove, the romance, the wooing and stuff like that. And it's different to see how some men can be, how to get to relationships. And there's like a threesome and a foursome, and it's just funny like how it doesn't work out. It's just, the whole movie is, if you like to laugh, and then I highly recommend this movie. I thought it was hilarious.
Good. Yeah, I'm super excited for that one. I just need to figure out where it is playing in Canada, if it is streaming in Canada. I hope it's streaming in Canada. Like, I'm gonna find it.
There are cameos. The cast is amazing. Like there are some people in there that You will just laugh out loud when you see them. When they show up, you're like, oh my God. And they just laugh. You just laugh. So it is a good movie, and I'm glad I watched it. So good. What is your official recommendation?
Okay. So last weekend I got hit with my first cold that I've had. You can probably even hear it in my voice. That's why I'm sound so congested. It's fine. I was a big baby, but I also was like, you know what? I'm going to lay down for the weekend. And that weekend I watched nothing but the first season. Well, that's not true. I watched Wig. And then after I finished Wig, I watched the whole first season of Legendary, and I love it. I've just started season 2. There are 3 seasons. It is on HBO Max. Again, if you're in Canada, that means that you can watch it on Crave. And this is a competition reality show about ballroom houses. Have you ever seen Paris is Burning?
No.
What?
I know. Maybe
Give me your gay card right now. Give me your gay card.
I'm going to look right now because I'm automatically going to say no all the time. No.
So it's a documentary. I think it came out in 1989, and it was by Jenny Livingston.
Like 2.
But it's about the ballroom scene in New York City. And so it's kind of the reason I asked that is that if you've seen it, for people who have seen it, then you'll have kind of a good idea of where today's ballroom scene came from anyway. The judges are Jamila Jamil, Megan Thee Stallion. Yes, your hand is raised. Nobody else can see that, but I'm going to just point it out for them. Yes, Kris. Yes. In the back.
I was just going to say, I'm pretty sure that was on the documentary I watched, the 6-part documentary that I recommended earlier. I think it was called Pride, and I think it was in that.
Yeah, it probably was. It gets referenced in a lot of things.
Of it. Yeah.
It gets referenced I think it was referenced in Disclosure as well. And so the judges are Jamila Jamil, the actress, Megan Thee Stallion, of course, the absolutely incredible rapper, although I think she leaves after season 2. Leomi Maldonado, who is just like an absolute legend from the ballroom scene and brings that real credibility because she knows. And then La Roach, the stylist who's there to judge the fashion. Each season, the houses are competing for $100,000, and they each bring 5 people from their house, and they're competing against a range of categories. They can either be team-based or it can be individual. So like somebody is presenting face. Somebody is doing runway. Somebody, it just kind of depends on what it is. And the houses are often... they're often named after couture brands. So there's the House of Balenciagas in season 2. In season 1, they have the House of Gorgeous Gucci or the House of Escada. And these houses, yes, they're teams, but also one of the things that I really appreciate this show is that it brings it across that they're also families. And for a lot of the people that are in these houses, they are the only family that they have anymore, because they've been kicked out of their family of birth for being gay, for being trans, for any of these things. The other thing I think is kind of cool too is they're also showing, so some of them are named after couture brands. Some of them are named after their founders. So the House of Ninja participated in season 1, and that's named after the absolutely iconic voguer Willie Ninja. He created that house. Or the House of LaBeija is in season 3, which I haven't seen yet, so I don't know who wins, and I don't want nobody tell me because I'm going to catch up.
Don't tell her.
But it was founded by Crystal LaBeija. And do you remember, I think it was last year, I was talking about the documentary The Queen, about the drag pageant from the 1960s. Crystal LaBeija is in it, and she does this absolutely incredible read at the end because she didn't win. But she and another person whose name currently escapes me, and I apologize for that, they threw the first ever ball, which is thought to be the beginning of ballroom culture. And she is the founder of the House of LaBeija. And then you see the next house mother, Pepper LaBeija, in Paris is Burning. And so it's just very cool. She created this in response to that white favoritism within the drag pageant scene, because she was I can't remember for sure what her background is, but she wasn't white. So here's the thing that I think is probably, if it's not clear, it should be clear. Am I actually really equipped to talk about all the ins and outs of this as a white person in Alberta? No, absolutely not. And I've never been a part of the ballroom scene, and it's unlikely I'm going to happen at this point in my life, but I loved this show completely, inhaled the season. I'm so excited to watch the rest of it because I love how the family aspect is so strong and comes across, and you see so many of these families coming together and really fighting for, because like, yes, of course the money is great, but they also want to prove to everyone that they have the best house in the world. The voguing is unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. Some of the fashions are incredible. You learn a lot about the scene, how it is in the present, and how things happened in the past. You especially learn that from, the teams talk about it in the, like, there's certain sections where it shows them preparing for what they're going to be doing, or where they're talking about it. But also you learn a lot from Laomi, because Laomi calls out a lot of things. So if you want to be entertained, if you want to learn something about this other kind of really important, critical area of queer culture, and especially like ballroom is for everyone, but you can see like ballroom exists because of Black queer people, whether they're gay, whether there's trans. There's a ton of trans representation on here. So much of the lingo that we use now comes from ballroom, like talking about shade and categories and all these things. Like, it's so good. I highly that is why it is my recommendation for this week.
Nice.
So that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe on your podcast app so you know whenever we release a new episode. Or like I mentioned earlier, for real, it sounded like I was joking, but seriously, if you have a friend who would like the show, who needs more queer media recommendations in their life, please tell them about it. Or if you'd like to support the show, there is that link to Ko-fi in the show notes.
Or if you want to connect with us on your favorite social media sites, just search for Queerly Recommended on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or email us at podcast@queerlyrecommended.com, or reach out to me or Tara. That's it. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Hello? Hello? Still nothing? Nothing.
You know what happened?
It was you. What?
Muted. I muted on my end so I could start coughing, and then I forgot.
I was like, how can I fuck it up again? How can I fuck it up again?
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, sorry about that.
I'm sorry. That was me.